Recently, some moves have been made towards granting Palestine full membership to the United Nations and thus recognizing its statehood at the UN level. 143 out of 193 UN members have recognized the Palestinian state. This includes Turkey, China, Russia, all Arab states, and virtually all African states except Cameroon and Eritrea. The G7 countries have not, and the US used its veto power to block this initiative. The recognition of the state of Palestine is a political and symbolic move. It signals the recognition of the Palestinian rights to sovereignty over the West Bank and Gaza. The question is, if and when granted come September 2024, what would it portend for Israel? Can this move stop the Israel-Hamas war? Why is the US stopping the move? These and others we shall be taking a look at on this week's edition of International Desk. I am Mojisola Sholaja, and I have with me my guest, Akin Akintoye. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much, Moji.
Yes, Palestine statehood. The US doesn't want it, though there are signals that it is likely to vote for it much later, you know, but for now, some countries do not want this to happen. Let's talk about the genesis of this issue.
All right, so it's been in contemplation, it's been in conflict. The originality, the historicity of the Palestinian people, talking about who are they, what kind of people are they, how acceptable are they, how original are they in terms of their sovereignty, in terms of their sojourning to the place where they today domicile, talking about Gaza and the West Bank. I think genetically, they are composed of about 5 nationalities, talking about they are partly genetically through their DNA examination from Iran, from the Saudis, from Turkey, from Jordan, and largely from Lebanon. And so that's where the contemplation comes from. People are saying they are not one people. That is, genetically, they are not one nation, so to speak, that they are a conglomeration of Arabs that, you know, that were scattered abroad, came from all over, and then they domicile in a region that has been historically known to be Israel. And so that continues the confliction, that continues the debate, that continues the lack of acceptance in the global community. And for example, the place where you are having the conflict today is where we call West Bank. Another name for West Bank would be Jerusalem. Historically, you know that's the birthplace of Jesus. And so for you to say that that place of Jesus, the Bible spanning over 2,000 years, and now you are saying that place belongs to the Palestine. The Palestine are historically and genetically Arabs. And so the end to the conflict, the end to the intellection, the understanding of the situation is not in sight. Why? Because there must be deep interpretation of the exegesis of what constituted the Palestinian nation and then the Palestinian people. If I want to take a deeper dive into that, it will be component upon the fact that even in Palestine, they don't have a state.
And one thing is, if granted this statehood, the capital will be Jerusalem.
Exactly. Okay, so let me just hold my thought pattern, or let me just quickly land on my thought pattern. My initial thought pattern that I was talking about has to do with the fact that today, the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or the power, the de facto power that governs Palestine, does not agree with Hamas. However, Hamas is the political power that is recognized, that is feared, that is respected by the Palestinians, even though they, to a great extent, lack legitimacy. And so, to now recognize a nation in dire strait like the Palestinian nation that has about, and don't forget the Fatah, you have PLO, Fatah, and then you have Hamas. saying that they are the true leaders, they are the true government of a nation. That talks about confusion, that talks about division. And so if this is the state of the Palestinian people, come September, if it happens that they are recognized, there will be a new type of conflict, there will be a new type of war, there will be a new type of infighting going on that will be more devastating than what is happening between Israel and the Palestinian people.
Now let's talk about the effect on the Israel-Gaza-Hamas war now. Will it bring an end to this war at all?
Well,
because that is the main reason some of the countries are supporting it now. It's because of the war.
But that would be short-sightedness, because the body language of Israel through Netanyahu is the fact that Israel may have an idea of giving them a kind of government, giving them a kind of a puppet government. And so that is the body language of Israel, and that's why Israel has not stopped from its Rafah crossing and from the continuous bombardment operation. Thank you. So what I'm looking at is a situation where they want a situation where Israel stops fighting, or there's a ceasefire, or there's a total resolution. However, there will be a greater conflict. You don't solve a problem to create another problem. That doesn't make sense. When you solve problems, they should be entirely solved, they should be totally solved. There should be a moratorium, meaning that it's necessary and it's timely that the Palestinian people have a neutral government, if it's possible. Saudi Arabia, the United States, and maybe Turkish government or the Qatarian government comes in and dissolve the three powers that be and constitute a new power. Probably a democracy. If there is a situation that can phantom a democracy in Palestine, there's going to be peace. That is what I see.
Now, the diplomatic relations between U.S. is there, Israel and U.S. allies. Should U.S. support the Palestine statehood now? What happens?
That's a very, very intelligent question, and that is a problem-solving question. Because once there is a state of Palestine recognized with a decorum government in power, a government that thinks, a government that loves its people, let's call a spade a spade. The Palestinian government, Hamas, does not value the lives of its citizens. There is unprecedented suffering going on in the state of Palestine right now as we speak. Don't forget their proximity to the Mediterranean Sea. The kind of water they have in the Palestinian state is totally unconsumable, colorful, odorful, and tasteful. It's pathetic. The situation is so precarious that life is animalistic in the Palestinian nation. And so once there is a situation that creates a government that recognizes the people as valuable, as essential, with human rights, a government that wants to defend its people, not put them at harm's way as human shield, I think war will end. But in a situation where the governance of Palestine is in the hands of notorious terrorists, there's no end in sight. So I'm seeing a situation where if they can totally deconstruct the ideation behind the statehood of the Palestinian people, and then they bring them human faces, people with compassion, someone said the pain you can feel is the pain you can heal, people with human faces, people that feel the pulse of the people, that sympathize with the cause of the people, and then a democracy, if possible. I don't know the ideation behind a democracy in an Arab state, but that is possible. If Israel in the Middle East could be a democracy, I think the Palestinian leadership should embrace the ideation of a democracy, and if they do that, I see a long 100-year peace. Why? Because the reason why you have continuous killing is hatred. Hatred, number one, they don't have the power to determine the type of leadership they have. Now they go to the polls, they go for elections, and then they select people that they understand will be able to predict their future. If I know this man A will not conflict, this man A is not troublesome, this man A is peace-loving, and then in mass numbers, I vote for that man, and then that man becomes our leader. He understands the reason why he has been voted for in the first place. it. And then when there are serious issues with Israel, because there will continue to be serious issues with Israel, and I say that to explain, for example, Israel controls about 80% of the water structure, water resources of the Palestinian people. Israel basically and entirely supplies the electricity for the whole of Palestine. And so there will always be situation because of their dealings. However, then they will have a leader that can deploy diplomacy, that can engage dialogue instead of throwing rockets. And don't forget, Palestinian as a nation supposed to be a very rich, very wealthy country. However, the leadership that they had before now has always been deploying their funds into subterranean structure, building tunnels, thinking war, thinking fight, buying ammunitions, no good hospital, no good roads, but they are always spending hundreds of millions of dollars preparing for the day that they will totally eliminate Israel. They need a new thinking, they need new leaders in Palestine that can think of, let's have peace going forward.
Can there be peace at all?
Yes, there's going to be peace.
Before you answer that, we'll take a break to be back shortly. Stay with us. You're still watching International Desk live from our studios in Abeokuta, Ogun State capital, and the topic is still Palestine statehood. I want us to take a look at the legal implications of this. Already somebody has given an opinion, has suggested that the ICC should order the prosecution of Hamas and Israel leaders, just because of this war. And should the Palestine statehood be voted, and should UN recognize this? What will be the legal implications? Don't forget, it means when the Palestinians are recognized, it means they can actually vote on the floor of the UN. They can actually have access to some other things. So let's take a look at the legal implications of this on Israel.
All right, so there's a need for unbundling in that question, and then we'll be able to matrix it. Number one, let's talk about the fact that they are seeking, in layman's terms, they are seeking approval to get Netanyahu arrested and certain leaders of the Hamas terrorist group arrested. Now, what they have just done is to balance the fulcrum, meaning that we are not going after Netanyahu, we are also going after Hamas. And to also placate the Palestinians or the Hamas people that, okay, as much as we are going after your leader, don't forget we are also going after Netanyahu. They are just trying to be optically correct in their rhetorics, in their narration of the fact that they are committed to having peace. But I don't think that's the solution, because the U.S. will never allow somebody like Netanyahu to be arrested or tried for genocide or for war crimes, as the case may be. And the leader of the Hamas would rather die than being captured alive. That is the mentality. So there is going to be a stalemate in that. And the second question, which has more gravitas, is the question of legality. What happens to the image of Israel? What happens? In my own opinion, nothing happens to the image of Israel. I will want to assume that Israel, this is my assumption, that Israel actually wanted peace. They wanted their borders to be safe. They wanted to raise their kids in peace and in harmony. They wanted a friendly neighborhood. And this question has been posed in the international community, that when will the war end? Then they pose two scenarios. The first scenario is this: if it happens that Israel stops fighting, lay down all his arms, what will happen? The war will not end. That's the truth. Because there's a mindset. Because there's a mindset among certain activated Palestinians that Israel is an enemy that must be eliminated. And so no matter what happens, until the leadership stops, and then there's a new brain information talking about indoctrination, until the young radicalized Palestinians understand that Israel can be a friend. The same thing for the Israelis and the IDFs to understand that the Palestinians can be friends. There will be no peace. So the legal implication is the fact that I think it's good for Palestine or for the Palestinian people to have a vote in the Committee of Nations. I think it's going to give them serious recognition, and they've always felt left out. The Palestinian people have always felt inferior, they have always felt marginalized, they have always felt deprived. So in a situation where they are recognized, the sense of humanity, the sense that gives you this ideation that we are also human, we are not hated, we are not depleted, we are not human animals as some of the leaders have described them, that envelopes them and that gives them a sense of belonging. For example, if I have a sense of nothingness, I'm worth nothing, then I don't mind you shooting me in the head. But once hope is created, once hope is introduced into my psyche that I have hope for a better tomorrow, I'm going to live well, I'm loved by my neighbors, I don't want to die, I don't want to conflict, I don't want to fight. And so I think the recognition of the Palestinian state in the United Nations, in the Committee of Nations, is a welcome development, because there must be an end to this century-long conflict in the Middle East.
But when you said it will be a welcome development, there are certain issues that we should bear in mind. We have to take a look at the political, the legal, and there is need for us to talk about the security and border control now, because if the two states, you know, there is an issue of two-state nations.
Yes.
Israel there, Palestine, and yes. It's not actually, the land mass is not quite big, so who controls where? Then it means there will be the case of, will Gaza belong to Israel? West Bank belongs to who?
Okay, that's another very intelligent question. Now, in accepting Palestine in the Committee of Nations will automatically solve certain problems. One of it is the problem of leadership. The United Nations cannot accept Palestine with Hamas as its leader. So there are certain things that will fizzle away. One of it is the fact that Hamas will stop or end being the leader of the Palestinian nation, and that is a fact.
That will create another problem.
Yes, that will create another problem.
The Fatah.
Yes, the Fatah, the PLO, and Hamas. What happened is, you see, Hamas has funding from Iran, from Qatar, from Jordan, and so on and so forth. And so in a situation where they are coming to the round table to have a negotiation, certain things will cease automatically. Iran must stop funding Hamas. Why? Because Hamas is now going to lose face. He's no longer going to be the face. He's no longer going to be the authority and the power that governs Palestine. And so now we are coming to the table. No nation is governed by a terrorist government. Not even ISIS, not even Iran itself can say, look, I want to be accepted in the United Nations and I'm governed by terrorists. So certain things will end by the virtue of that. Now it will create new problems, which is possible. One of it is West Bank, the Gaza Strip. Now, historically, one of the solutions that have been profiled is the fact that there will be a recreation, and that is going on already. When we go to Jerusalem and we say we want to go and see the birthplace of Jesus, for example, the birthplace of Jesus that you and I will be introduced to will be a recreation, not the historical birthplace of Jesus, because the historical birthplace of Jesus has fallen in the geographical location called Palestine. West Bank today is Palestine, up to Rafah, Bethlehem of Judea. All these places today, geographically, from the Darfur Accord, from the Oslo Accord, today they fall under Palestine, which I understand. So what happens is a situation where they are entirely turned into a tourist attraction center, where the income that comes from it is divided between Israel and Palestine, but nobody takes full control of those contested areas. That is the solution that is possible.
Lastly, we'll look at the bilateral relations. Already, the United Arab Emirates is saying there will be no bilateral relations with Israel until there is the Palestine. The UN recognizes Palestine as a state. And now, when this happens, if and when finally it is granted, what will the trade, investments, and all be like between the two countries?
The truth is, once Hamas leaves power, Israel must reconstruct.
Hamas is a non-state actor.
Yes, once Hamas leaves power, Israel must reconstruct Gaza, Rafah, and other areas in Palestine that has been destroyed. So what happens is, for example, the United Arab Emirates will have to reopen talks. Don't forget, in less than 30 days, United Arab Emirates and the Saudi Arabia government were supposed to recognize Israel as a nation, have them bring back their embassies, have them with bilateral agreements, relationship talks. This was one of the things that October 7 hampered or hindered or prevented from happening. Why? Because once Israel is accepted as a nation, the image of Israel is further enhanced, and that of the Palestinian nation goes down. And so it was strategic, it was timely for the Iranian-sponsored Hamas to do what they did. But right now, diplomatic ties that have been closed will just be reopened. You see, when it comes to diplomacy, they don't have permanent enemies, they don't have permanent friends. So in a situation where all is about negotiation, all is about strategic alignment, all is about cooperation, and so they are not really enemies, as it were. They are just trying to fight for the interests of their Arab brothers, which is very, very understandable. So what will now happen is, look, we have agreed, US have agreed, let Palestinians come onto the table, because Israel also wants expansion and wants recognition in the Middle East. So I see a situation where it becomes a welcome development. Abu Dhabi will not fight endlessly against Israel. They have things that they need to do together.
But the thing is, Israel will not be in control of Hamas. It will not be in control
Hamas
of
will
Palestine.
fade away like ISIS faded away.
It will lose grip in some areas.
Beautiful,
That
yeah.
is Israel.
Yeah.
And that will not be to its favor.
It will not be to its favor, but you must understand compromise. For there to be peace, Israel must lose some of its rights. And yes, that is how conflicts are resolved. It has happened in 1979, where Israel decided to concede some of its territories, some of its historical landmarks to the Palestinian people, not just to the Palestinian people, even to Egypt. Not just to Egypt, even to Jordan.
Okay, let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens in the next few months, because already more countries are supporting the Palestine statehood. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Well, that is all we can take on the program today. We thank you for being a part of it, and to you, Ake Akitoye, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much
for sharing your in-depth knowledge on this issue, on this topic with us. I'll be back next week with another topic. Till then, keep watching OGTV. Goodbye.